Hello and welcome to the deck tech portion of this new video. This is basically another one of my Stalwart, Augur, Jetmir and Knight-Errant of Eos decks. I think I have already posted 2 lists on the channel already. This time also Gala Greeters is back, pretty good in creature heavy decks already with its alliance ability, and also creating the tapped treasure token can both be good for ramp and fixing for a card like Jetmir. Another really good card for that is the Citanul Stalwart. That is not only a 1-mana dork in standard, which I think is insane, but it only works in decks like this where you can double spell as soon as turn 2, but then you also get again both the fixing and the ramp, which is I think really good and definitely a huge payoff for a deck like this. But also Gala Greeters is nice with one of the new cards here in Amalia. Don't really know how to say the rest of the name, but she explores whenever you gain life. So this is obviously a really strong and powerful ability, but to use it as its best you probably want to have a bunch of incidental life gain, and then a card like Lunarch Veteran is probably one of the best ways in standard to do that. And obviously that's pretty good in a deck like this, where we have the possibility of having so many creatures entering the battlefield. And then one of the ways to play so many creatures off the top of the deck in this case is Augur of Autumn. This is basically, you might want to say, my version of the One Ring maybe in this deck, because it generates just so much card advantage over the course of the game, maybe sometimes even as soon as you cast it. But even if you just, let's say, protect it with a Skrelv and it having entering the battlefield and drawing no card or just 1 land from the top, it's plenty good already, and then it can pop off the next turn. And that's actually kind of the plan with Augur of Autumn, to flood the board with creatures and then finishing them off with Jetmir. I have a Thran Portal, some Gorges and the Plaza of Heroes in here, but you usually cast Jetmir with a treasure token from Gala Greeters or from Stalwart. And you have so many ways to generate card advantage, selection and card advantage, I guess, with Knight-Errant of Eos to find your creatures that generate the fixing for the Jetmir. So usually, not always, but usually it should not be a big deal to cast him here. And by the way, that's also the reason why I only play creatures in the deck, because I really want to make sure to not brick with creatures, to also play cards from the top like Deep-Cavern Bat. That is also one of the new cards from the new set in this deck here. That really makes it hard for the opponent to just board wipe us, but it's also just nice to play as soon as turn 2, to just, let's say, remove a Go for the Throat or something like that, and then force out another removal spell on it or something like that. It also has pretty nice stats in this deck for Coven for Augur of Autumn. It has the lifelink, which is nice for Amalia, and the evasion helps as well to get in there for some pinks. So definitely a really nice and strong addition from the new set. And then lastly, when it comes to the new cards, I have also 1 copy of Kellan, Daring Traveler. He's pretty good in generating card advantage. We have 39 creatures in the deck, so he should hit reasonably often, but even just providing card selection with the mill ability if it is a land is also pretty good. And then you also can, by the way, double spell with Kellan as soon as turn 2 in the deck, thanks to Stalwart, because Stalwart can also add 1 mana by tapping any artifact, also the map artifact token. And then I have another strong Coven enabler in the deck, and the Concealing Curtains. Being 0 power and 1 mana is super convenient for Augur to enable the Coven, but it's also really nice in the early game to block against creature decks, and of course its ability to look at the opponent's hand and discard any card is really useful against board wipes as well. So Concealing Curtains definitely a super good card in a deck like this, and also a payoff for being in black, I think. And then in the white colors we also have an effect like this in the Anointed Peacekeeper. This I think I always run in decks like this because the 3 power is really nice for the Coven, and it has just this really convenient tax effect to tax the board wipe, or just the best card of course that you want to slow down, especially good versus cards that have activated abilities at the same time, like Planeswalkers, or let's say the schooner, like the cruise ship. It's just a very good card. Then we have some other good, also by the way, Coven enablers, 4 power, 5 power. The Knight-Errant of Eos of course makes a ton of sense in low to the ground creature decks like this, but the card selection is what really makes it shines in this deck here, I think, because you just get these discard spells when you need them. Maybe you need a Skrelv to set up the Jetmir, maybe you're looking for Jetmir, maybe you need an Augur of Autumn to just really pop off. It's just very good to look at the top 6 and then just reveal the best 2 creatures and put them into your hand. Of course you need to have Convoked with enough creatures, but again in this deck this should be possible reasonably often. And then lastly we have our Sledgehammer of the deck here in Jetmir Nexus of Revels, which just wins the game on the spot with its often 3rd mode when you have 9 creatures on the board. Then trust me, this happens pretty often, and it's just again basically a I win the game button, and therefore I think you could even say makes this into kind of a combo deck. I hope I've not forgot anything. Of course, Skrelv, everyone knows what it does. Quite nice to protect both the Amalia and the Augur. And yeah, with the mana base, I have these Gorges in here. Those are for Jetmirs. They would be forests. Otherwise, technically, we just need 14 green to cast Stalwart consistently on turn 1. And by the way, you can take out the Thran Portal versus like aggressive decks and bring in the forest, or bring in the forest and take out the Copperline Gorge versus decks that have like Field of Ruin kind of cards. And then another good card to bring against Aggro would be the Interpret Adversary. Instead of the 2 Jetmirs, you can bring 2 of them. By the way, those are considerations, so you can just play more of those cards or other cards in addition, of course. I just wanted to highlight the important ones, because this has lifelink and you can cast it as soon as turn 2, opposing on this with the turn 4, and it's easier to cast also, but you can still use it as a like over-the-top win condition in the late game when you really pop off with the deck. So I think this is a good alternative when you're up against aggro instead of Jetmir. And then also Extraction Specialist is quite nice with the lifelink, and also being able to reanimate one of the creatures if they, let's say, get faced by a burn spell, if they don't have Kumano out. But yeah, pretty good, this Specialist. And Italia also would bring against, let's say, like Mono Red, but otherwise, of course, versus Control, Ramp, or very interaction-based mid-range decks. Then also versus Ramp or decks that just have like important artifacts or enchantments, like maybe the Cauldron combo have 1 copy of Haywire Mite, same as the Lauren. I guess I would also bring against decks like this versus like, again, Cauldron or any graveyard-based synergy deck. Scrap Gotcha makes maybe sense. It does only get rid of 1 card, so it's, I guess, particularly nice versus like Reanimate effects or the Cauldron deck. Otherwise, maybe Soulless Jailer makes sense. It really depends on the situation, I guess, but in general, I think I would pick this over that. Of course, both really nice for the deck because of the 0 power. Just very convenient for Coven. And then I have some more considerations for the deck that could be quite cool, but I just couldn't find a place in the deck to include them. But of course, they would make sense to run them in a deck like this here. Wormlet I really wanted to have in there because it has this like a life gain theme, which I really wanted to have, but it's also a good card. You want to think of like Gala Greeters creating the treasure tokens, and I tried to make more of an artifact deck in the beginning. I also have the Skrelvs here. Kellan makes an artifact, but in the current version, and I think this is the best version, you can't just support it, but I think this is a really good idea if you wanna pair it with Amalia. But yeah, I think this would be the deck tag. Now let's get into some games and see how it does. Let's go.